Hello, friends and bees, and friends who are also bees, and welcome to this week's Indie Thursday stream. For some reason, my closed captions are not on. When Mike walks is heard. Only English United States. Hello? Okay, well, I'm not sure why my captions aren't working. I don't understand what's going on, and when I go into preview mode it doesn't seem to be working either. Caption source, streams and local recordings, is that better? Nope, it isn't. Okie doke, well, hopefully it starts working again soon. What I meant to say is welcome to this week's Indie Thursday stream. This week we are going to be continuing our playthrough of Higurashi When They Cry, Taraimawashi. Last time we had been freaked out by both Mion, Shion and Reina, and kind of Rika as well, and we're sort of getting the impression that we really shouldn't be asking or thinking about or worrying about anything that's currently going on in Hinamizawa because it's all terrifying. So this week we're going to see what happens when we continue to ignore things. So, my captions are working now, thank goodness for that. Swap over to the game to play. And I'm going to turn my audio up just a little bit, and we are going to load in. Never mind, I'm going to turn my... There we go. The rain outside was coming down even harder. Alongside the intense rain, thunder was crackling more and more frequently. It felt like the sort of night where something would happen. And naturally that something would be nothing good. Rather, something ominous. I was feeling mildly restless and couldn't calm myself down. I just wanted to get to sleep as soon as possible. So I turned the lights out early and crawled into my futon. I have a feeling our parents are still in Tokyo, and I'm trying to think if I believe this is the evening after we met Mion in the library, where she told us everything that was going on and then said, like, don't talk to anyone, and then Reina, like, yelled at us for lying, and we tried to pull it off and failed, and then just, like, crawled into bed. The darkness distracted me from my idle thoughts, but those negative emotions were still lurking deep within my subconscious. If I can set those thoughts aside, everything will become clear. The fear and anxiety I tried to ignore laid me bare and attacked me from time to time. The curse of Oyashiro-sama, or rather, the series of deaths in Hinamizawa, the Sonozaki family, and their acting head, Mion Sonozaki. Nice, time for a recap. No, she's our good-natured club president, and a friend. Those pieces of the puzzle unconsciously came to mind. Nevertheless, I still couldn't get a grasp on the situation. What on earth is happening? Have I already gotten myself involved? And if so, is there anything I can do to escape? Or maybe it's just all in my head? No, too many bizarre events have already come to light. It's impossible to simply explain them as products of my own biased imagination. And the most important thing, of course, is Mion. Why do I have to be afraid of Mion? Mion's supposed to be my precious friend. Pardon me. But at the same time, I can't help but see the tremendous darkness behind the Sonozaki family. And the truth is, I'm afraid. There has to be some relationship between the Sonozaki family and the series of deaths in Hinamizawa. Mion personally explained the danger of the Sonozaki family to me and warned me not to speak out. The friends I've made since I moved to Hinamizawa are precious to me. I want to trust them wholeheartedly. That's right, I want to believe in Mion. My eyes gradually grew accustomed to the darkness. The ceiling was faintly visible. The waning darkness slowly mingled. Oh no, not again. I hate it so much. Slowly mingled with the imagery from my imagination, and over time it became hard to tell if the images before my eyes were real or not. I could see two sharp elliptical shapes. I immediately buried my face in my futon, but hiding in my futon did nothing to comfort me. What was that just now? I saw Mion's eyes, or some pair of eyes resembling Mion's, shining on the ceiling. The glint in her eyes from this afternoon that paralysed me. I wonder if that's actually Hanyu like standing over him. Maybe that's what he's seeing rather than, and he's interpreting them as Mion's eyes. That wasn't Mion. Those predatory eyes had to belong to someone else. What the hell did I see just now? An illusion born from my own fear? I heard a sound, so I listened carefully to identify its source. I rolled out of my futon and quickly surveyed my surroundings. I was alone in the room, but I braced myself anyway. Both my fists were trembling non-stop. Then the next moment, I heard a tap on the door. Keiichi, telephone, you've got a call. What? Mum? Okay, coming. Once I answered, Mum opened the door. All the strength in my body released at once. Been calling you for a long time. The phone call is from a bookstore? Huh, bookstore? Caller said it was urgent, so hurry up, don't keep them waiting. A bookstore? I don't remember giving them my number. Though I felt a bit uneasy, I decided to head downstairs for the time being and pick up the phone. I'm sorry for calling so late at night. This is Oishi from the Okonomiya bookstore. I recognised that voice. Mr. Oishi? You mean Detective Oishi? Sorry about that. When your mother answered, I told her I was from a bookstore. People tend to get worked up when they receive a call from the police. Oishi seemed to be taking extra precautions, so I switched to the cordless receiver and ran back upstairs to my room. Screaming cat emoji. Sorry for calling so late. It's okay. So did something happen? Well, it's about what we discussed earlier. The truth is, Shion Sonozaki has gone missing. Shion? I squeezed the receiver in a panic. You said Shion's gone missing? That's right. And to top it off, she's been gone for a few days. She apparently hasn't been seen for several days. More precisely, since the night that I met Mion at the library. Maibara, do you know something? Was there a chance that Mion had Shion eliminated? I nearly uttered something in my panic, but I quickly covered my mouth with my hand. Hang on, was this the day... Oh, I've lost track of days now. I recalled the hawkish look in Mion's eyes from earlier. I can never tell anyone what Mion told me. No, I haven't heard anything. You really haven't heard anything? Mr. Oishi's low voice echoed through the receiver like he was threatening me. Yes, really. The day Shion Sonozaki disappeared. According to my intel, she was seen together with you, right, Maibara? I don't know about that. Shion goes to a different school from Mion and I, so I don't have many opportunities to see her. You sure it wasn't someone else? Is that so? Oishi's obstinate voice crawled through my ears. Did he suspect me? But I don't know anything. Really, I don't. As I thought that, I started to regret carelessly mentioning Mion by name. I didn't want Oishi to hear anything about Mion, no matter how trivial. I didn't want to give Mion or Reina any reason to doubt me. Maibara, would you tell me the truth? It's true. I don't know anything. I'm not connected to any of this. Well, calm down, Maibara. I didn't ask because I suspect you or anything. Okay. He spoke softly to try and calm me down. If this was his idea of a bad joke, then stop it already. Hurry up and end this phone call. Making outbursts like that tends to make you sound more suspicious, you know that? I'm sorry. Oh no, it's nothing to apologise for. I just want to be sure you really don't know anything. I am telling the truth. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. And yet, Oishi seems to be doubting me. I can't tell Oishi anything Mion told me, no matter what. I desperately try to sort out the thoughts running through my head. Are you alright? Mebara? Yeah. Anyway, I don't know anything. Then Oishi spoke softly. Well, the truth is, I can't confirm her sister Mion's whereabouts either. Huh? Mion too? After Shion, Mion disappeared too? That's right. And this sort of thing has happened before. Happened before? Have the two of them gone missing before? Yes, that's right. It happened last year. Last year? That recently? After the aunt of the Hodra family was murdered, the two of them went missing. No way. I wish she was speaking of the curse on the day of Watanagashi. On top of that, the prime suspect ended up dying around that time. 2 people disappeared and the suspect died. I wish she seemed to suspect that the 2 of them were involved in the incident. Well, not that it proves anything, that said. This year, Tomitake died and 2 people went missing. If you know anything, please tell me. He suddenly began speaking in a clerical tone. Understood. I'll contact you again if I make any progress. Mebara, please be sure that you contact us if you learn anything, even if it's completely trivial. Alright, Mebara? Oishi was implicitly telling me to contact right away if I noticed any movement from the Sonozaki family. But if I do that, I'll be the next one getting killed. I wanted to hang up the phone right away and escape from his voice. I get it already. You made yourself perfectly clear. And so I have. Pardon me. Anyway, please excuse me. As soon as I hung up, the sound of the torrential rain filled my ears, and I heard a crash of thunder mixed in with the rainfall. It was particularly loud, but the noise was gradually muffled by the monotonous sound surrounding it. And then I was completely enveloped in silence. My nerves grew more and more tense, anticipating the moment when the silence would be broken again, with the sound of rain and thunder. But if I were to hear any other sound, no, I shouldn't hear anything like that. A sound like that would shatter my safety. As I continued thinking about the inevitable sound that would break the silence, my nerves nearly gave out. I buried my head in my futon. When I did, the darkness made my imagination run wild. A vague image of Mion's hawkish eyes appeared before me. No, I don't want them. This time, I'm positive it's my imagination. Still, I was desperately fighting back the shock and fear. I was on the verge of screaming any moment now. So what are you going to do? Keep silent like this, or... Suddenly, Mion's words came back to me, as real as if they were whispered in my ear. My entire body was racked with tension, and all my strength escaped me. When Mion said, "Oh, what did she have in mind for me?" Someone might kill me on Mion's order. They got me in this room, I probably wouldn't stand a chance. Perhaps someone would just open the door and break in without making a sound. Or maybe someone would just smash the window and break in. Or maybe there's someone already inside the room. I crawled out of my bedding and frantically looked around. There was nobody in the room. This wasn't the first time Mion and Shion disappeared. The same thing happened last year when the Hodra family aunt died. On top of that, the prime suspect disappeared with impeccable timing. Well, what's going to happen this time? Someone dies and someone disappears? How many people are going to disappear from Hinamizawa this year? I suppose it's kind of weird that both this year and last year, the person who killed the dying victim was spirited away in Satoshi's case by the clinic, and in what's his face's case by my god, my brain is just completely emptied. In what's her face's case by herself and her mountain dogs. The heavy rain and thunder carried on as usual. There was no sign of the approaching morning. Will I be able to safely make it through the night? Really, I wonder if tomorrow morning will ever come. Will it? Save. I woke up once again. No, it was probably for the best that I stayed up. Continuing to sleep will only put me in more danger. Tomorrow morning is going to be tough, but I can't compromise my safety. If someone were to break in, even if I was awake when an intruder broke in, I'm not sure I could do much about it on my own. Still, it's better than sleeping completely defenseless. At any rate, I just wanted a moment to relax. If I keep this up until morning, the tension's going to drive me mad. Pat, pat, pat. No, it must be my imagination. I was disgusted with myself for thinking that so many times tonight. It sounded like it was getting closer and closer. It felt more real than my earlier hallucinations. Was it still just my imagination? After one last pat, I noticed the sound stop right in front of my room. That's no hallucination. Keiichi? Please wake up. It's morning, you know. It was Mum. Morning had already arrived. In the end, I could barely get any sleep. Just thinking about the sleepiness I'll be fighting all day had me depressed. But at the same time, I felt relieved that I'd safely made it to the morning. I dragged my body down the stairs. A completely ordinary scene was spread out before me. A completely ordinary breakfast on an ordinary dining table. You look tired, Keiichi. How late were you up last night? Yeah, I had trouble sleeping last night. Oh, isn't that unusual? Morning arrived before I realised it. Maybe you couldn't sleep because you were afraid of the thunder? No way. I'm not a child. Mum gave me an awkward look, like she'd seen right through me. It wasn't fear of thunder that denied me my sleep. However, it was indeed fear that kept me awake, so she was right in that regard. I was bombarded with sounds I shouldn't be able to hear and other meaningless noises. Any small sound off in the distance would leave me terrified. It was a long, long night. I focused all my attention on the morning sun and the chirping birds. And then, I was finally able to see how cowardly I was acting. It was a calm, wholesome morning, completely devoid of any sort of trouble. My fear of the Sonozaki family, my fear of Neon, the dark side of the Sonozaki family that I heard about. It was unmistakably Neon Sonozaki who told me all about it, personally. Was it a warning or was it intimidation? I took it both ways. However, nothing has happened since then. My everyday life was going on like usual. So is there really any reason for me to be afraid of Neon? As of this morning, there's been no change in my everyday life. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Keiichi, good morning. Oh, good morning, Reina. Huh? Keiichi, your eyes are bright red. Something wrong? It's nothing. I just had some trouble sleeping, so I'm a little tired today. You feeling alright? Are you? Reina moved closer to look my face over. I was startled for a moment. If I moved in this close to Reina, she'd start blushing immediately. So I quickly looked away before my complexion could start changing. Hey, Reina. Mion's late today, huh? I wonder if she's still not feeling better. For the moment, I simply tilted my head to the side. According to Rishi, Mion had disappeared. In that case, there was no way she could come here. It's getting late, so we should probably go ahead without her. What do you think? Reina said with an innocent look on her face. So she didn't know about Mion's disappearance, or was she deliberately pretending not to know? Reina turned to me and encouraged me to think it over. What should we do, Keiichi? If we don't go now, we might be late. Right. Maybe Mion still isn't feeling well. There's nothing we can do about it. There's no point dwelling on it. Ultimately, I made my decision. That's right. Wasn't I the one who so passionately desired to enjoy my wonderful everyday life? I never wanted to get involved in any of these incidents. And Mion is probably just staying home because she's not feeling well, right? If I simply never got out of bed to answer my phone, would Oishi start saying that I disappeared too? There's nothing I can do about it. There's no point dwelling on it. Then shall we get going, Reina? Reina and I started walking side by side.
Come on
in, check. Come on in. Thank you very much for the raid, Lionel. It is very much appreciated. And thank you for the resub, Nico. Hello, Vengeful Shrike. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Ooh. There we go. I can do a typing. Thank you for the follow, Neotraconas. It is very appreciated. Nice. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that you're doing well. Hello everyone from Thionel Stream. 'Tis I, Mochi. I am a variety streamer. At the moment, I am... Nice, thank you. Thank you anyway. At the moment, I am streaming Higurashi When They Cry, Taraimawashi, which is a sort of alternate retelling of the first 3 question arcs in the Higurashi series. So... spoilers for the first 3 question arcs of Higurashi. But it's good. It's creepy. You miss the really creepy eyes that I hate coming out of the darkness. I hadn't seen them in so long, and as soon as I saw them, I just got, like, instantly reminded of being in my old flat in the dark, like, oh, this is too spoopy. Yes, glitter is the best. Confirmed. I'm not as glittery as I used to be just because I don't go anywhere or do anything, but emotionally, I'm still covered in glitter all the time. Okay. Okay. I just get scared I've accidentally skipped some dialogue when I click back into the game. As I walked to school with Raina, all the sights along the way looked just the same as always. Click back into the game. I felt like a person recovering from an illness, walking outside for the first time in a while. I found myself struggling to recognise the nature all around me. After carefully running my eyes across my surroundings, I came to realise that nothing had changed at all. Thank you for the follow. Sounds not straight. To me, interacting with anything other, it's very much appreciated. Thank you. I love that heart emote. It's so good. It's very excellent. I hope ESO went well. I hope it's a good. Ugh. Nice, I'm glad to hear it. Hello, Eris. Yes, of course. I hope you enjoy. Enjoy the spoops. Ah, nice. Well, you deserve it, Thionel. So there. It is definitely very much deserved. More emotes, always good. This is true. Approve. Came to realise that nothing had changed at all. As it should be, quite frankly. Chaos, always good. The best kind. Anybody who played Secret World, I am/was dragon in Secret World, so hell yes, chaos. Maybe I've been overthinking everything up until now. My shoulders and cheeks began to relax, and my usual confidence slowly came back to me. Keiichi, were you thinking about something weird just now? Or why would you say that? I'm not thinking anything like that. Keiichi, you look so embarrassed. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I'm not embarrassed. There's no reason to think that. Thank you for the follow, Catra Arrow. It is very appreciated. It's always sensible. There we go. So spacey today. I've spent the whole day in class or reading for other classes, and my brain now is shorted out, so that's why I'm like this at the moment, and will continue to be like this for the next 8 weeks. Also, absolutely wild that already on the 2nd week of the quarter. What the hell? Time's passing too quickly. I'm not embarrassed. There's no reason to think that. But you've been making scary faces for a long time now, and you just suddenly started to smile? Sheesh, of all the things for Raina to say. Still, was I really making those scary faces that Raina mentioned? It might be true. I haven't felt this calm in a long time. And there was no reason for her to say something unusual. It's been a while since she teased me, hasn't it? Really? I guess the secret's out. Is that so? Oh no. Were you thinking something weird after all? Nothing weird. Just that looking at you made me smile. Why? Why would looking at Raina make you smile? 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 Raina's cheeks were already starting to turn red. Past few days I've been feeling kind of tired. Oh. Even though we've been seeing each other every day, I never really took the time to take a proper look at you. Oh. I could tell Raina's heart rate was steadily climbing. So I gave your face a good look for the first time in a while. And I was thinking, it's actually pretty cute. Keiichi. Raina was blushing so hard she was about to faint. Mission accomplished. Come to think of it, it has been a long time since I properly teased Raina. By the time we arrived at school, everything was still the same as usual. In fact, considering how things were recently, it seemed even more light-hearted than usual. So I yanked open the classroom door like always. And just then, I heard a snap off in the distance. A moment later, what a surprise! My upper body was completely soaked with some liquid. Normally I'd be on high guard before entering the classroom, but of course I realised I was far more relaxed than usual. And the reason I described it as liquid instead of water, the smell, the stench. Stoko. Keiichi, I never expected you to fall for that so easily. It was just a joke. I thought you'd be able to dodge it. How does this fall in the realm of jokes? Spoiled milk is quite the dangerous trap. You don't think I'd seriously want to use it on you, do you? My entire body is drenched in spoiled milk. I couldn't have expected this. It was your mistake for being distracted, Keiichi. After my harsh words, Satoko sensed the impending danger. She quickly tried to put some distance between us, but I won't let her escape. Tap, tap. Insert sound effects here. How naive, Satoko. Keiichi. Keiichi poked my forehead. That's what you get for using old milk instead of water. Seriously, this stuff reeks. While Raina was stunned by the old milk, she was on high alert for a secondary disaster. Even Rika decided to keep her distance. Smart Rika. Poor Keiichi. But please, don't come any closer. Hurry up and change out of that shirt. Meep. Ah. I dashed off in the direction of the bathroom. She deserved more than a forehead poke for this suffering. Stoko. I'll have my revenge in the next club activity. Ugh. Hiccups. For the moment, I escaped into the privacy of the bathroom. Fortunately, there was nobody else inside. I can't imagine what kind of rumours might start flying around if someone saw me scampering into a private room covered in milk. Waggles eyebrows shiftily. I pulled my shirt off and used it to wipe my face and upper body. When I pulled off my pants, I noticed that the milk seeped all the way down to my underwear. Damn you, Satoko. I had no choice to wipe all the milk off my clothes. Even so, the smell, it was completely rotten. And no matter how much I scrubbed my hair, the smell remained. Damn you, Satoko. I brought a gym shirt with me, so I was able to wear that. At a time like this, there's no point arguing the details. I confirmed that no other students were around, then rinsed my head off in the bathroom. Class was already getting started, but I couldn't stop dealing with the milk situation. It was spoiled milk after all. Damn you, Satoko! I slipped back into the private room and started daydreaming while scrubbing my hair dry. In my dream, Satoko was completely incapable of moving. Of course, I was still able to move, and in my hands, I held a pot full of long since expired milk, emanating an intense stench. I had absolute authority on the matter. How would Satoko react in that situation? Like usual, she'd probably use all her strength and make the best of the situation. Satoko wouldn't break her rebellious posture for even an instant. I had a graceful smile on my face as I moved the pot closer to Satoko's head. And then, I'll show no mercy as I bathe her in that. In my daydream, I got my revenge on Satoko. Your relief will be short-lived. My hair was finally drying up, so it was probably about time to head back. As I entered the classroom, the lesson was already more than halfway done. If I tell Miss Chie I wasn't feeling well, she'd probably forgive the offence. The fact that I spent such a long time in the bathroom lended some credibility to the argument. I took a quick glance towards the meal seat, but she still wasn't there. Raina explained to me after class that Mion had apparently contacted Miss Chie to call in sick. Raina seemed genuinely concerned about Mion's health, so Raina clearly believed the story about her absence. Maybe I've just been overthinking everything these days after all. Keiichi, overthinking things? Never. As a character, he really only has two modes, which is overthink everything or no thoughts, head empty. There's no in between for Keiichi. Just in general, as a dude, he tends to be rocket around on the extremes of like emotion and behaviour and stuff. At today's club activity, I earned my first major victory in a long time. Of course, my strategy from start to finish was to take down Satoko, pay back for the spoiled milk. And thanks to that strong motivation, I came out victorious today. I completely denied the others an opportunity to follow up. I had so much fun, and I laughed from the bottom of my heart. Spending time with my wonderful friends, isn't this great? To me, this is the most important thing of all. Let's cherish our time together. Let's cherish every day we get to spend together as friends. Don't trust any of this positivity. I'm assuming that this chapter ends badly because it's Higurashi, so it always does. But I don't know. This positivity feels too good for me at the moment. Like, I feel it in my bones that something terrible is going to happen soon. And we're going to suffer. Thank you. Good night, Katrin. Have a good evening. Take care. I hope you enjoy. Hope you enjoy sleeping. I know how to speak English. Tokyo. Whoops. At the end of the Showa era and the dawn of Heisei, goods, information, and even people have been continuing to modernize at an incredible rate. Stretching always good. Actually, stretching my leggies out because my knee keeps hyperextending and it's really painful. Even though the news, oh, hang on, what? End of Showa era and dawn of Heisei, goods, information, and even people have been continuing to modernize at an incredible rate. Even though the news swept all across Japan at the time, hardly anyone remembers a story from a rural town 10 years later. But there was still a man pursuing the past everyone else had forgotten. Oishi stepped into this land for the first time in a while. These days, Oishi was suffering remarkable physical decline. Moving his body, even for a short time, put a strain on his body that he had to endure. But he did pick up dancing after retirement and was still at it. The silver grey dancing style has gained a lot of traction recently for not relying heavily on physical fitness. Oishi looked around as he entered the lobby, searching for the man he intended to meet. The airport interior looked larger and cleaner than how Oishi remembered it. He looked left and right, up and down, but none of it looked familiar. Once he started feeling a bit uneasy, he heard a familiar voice calling out to him. Mr. Oishi? Oishi! Akasaka! A man named Akasaka was waving at Oishi. He was a tall plainclothes police investigator, and a bit too old to be called a young man. Nice to see you. It's been a long time. And I was just starting to get lost. How many years has it been? Oishi vigorously slapped Akasaka on the shoulder, delighted to see him again. Well, you haven't missed a day of training, have you? Those are some nice muscles you got there. I'm not as frail as I was in the old days. Akasaka sounded embarrassed as he said that. And your face is looking more and more handsome, eh? Oh, really? There's no need for flattery. No, really, you've got the face of an investigator on active duty. You're looking pretty stylish yourself, Oishi. Still doing your ballroom dancing like usual? Well, despite my age, I'm still at it. I'm glad you found a nice hobby. Thanks to that, I'm rather popular. Maybe you should try it out sometime, Akasaka. Oh, no, I don't have the rhythm for that. Just do your best out there. That's all it takes to make people like you. After the brief reunion, the two men hopped in Akasaka's car and headed towards their destination. This is all. After a 30-minute drive from the airport in Akasaka's car, they slipped into the parking lot of a general hospital. The sky was beginning to clear up. The white walls of the hospital exterior reflected the shining sun. It was all new to me. A calm afternoon breeze gently rocked the curtains in the hospital room. A woman wearing solid white pyjamas sat on a bed, looking out of the window. The wind blowing through her hair wasn't strong enough to reveal her face, though. Her long hair kept it hidden, and she must not get out much, since her skin looked as pale as the pyjamas and the curtains. Oishi may not have noticed it himself, but there was a slight twitch in his leg while he waited at the receptionist's desk. Oishi himself couldn't possibly put it into words, but the anticipation, the fear, and the other emotions that he couldn't express any other way were being conveyed through the trembling in his body. Akasaka was standing next to him, feeling much the same way. Akasaka had to wipe away his sweat several times as he waited in the air-conditioned waiting room. In just a few minutes, a nurse approached the two of them. They both followed the nurse's lead without saying a word. Two men that seemed out of place in a hospital began feeling even more out of place as they stepped inside the private hospital room. A retired detective and an active Metropolitan Police investigator. The name of the patient in the hospital room was Mion Sonozaki. Definitely does not look like the Mion that we know at all. And she has the permanent spooky eyes. Mion was a survivor of the disaster that struck Hinamizawa village 10 years ago. By a stroke of luck, she was found in the basement of the Sonozaki family home. Okay, so I guess this is Watanagashi time. Not Watanagashi, the other one. The Shion goes paranoid one. Unfortunately, Mion Sonozaki took a heavy blow to the head. As a result, she lost all memory of events immediately before and after her confinement. Miss Sonozaki, you have another visitor. There was no reaction, as if she didn't hear anything at all. Oh. Hang on, I'm rubbing the brain cells together to do some remembering. So at the end of the Watanagashi answer arc that I can't remember the name of, it was heavily implied that... So Shion had kidnapped Mion, and it's heavily implied that as the police were coming, Shion killed Mion and forced them to swap clothes or something along those lines, so that Shion could run away and make it look like Mion had killed her kidnapper and disappeared. I can't remember it exactly, but it was heavily implied that Shion, despite being the villain, had managed to get away at the end of not Watanagashi, that I can't remember the name of. So makes me wonder, is this actually Mion? One presumes it is, but there was no reaction, as if she didn't hear anything at all. However, there was nothing wrong with her hearing. No matter how many times you come, the response is always the same, Detective. The nurse sounded disappointed as she told the two men the patient was reacting like usual. The two men had already been briefed on Mion Sonozaki's condition when they inquired with the hospital about it earlier. The hospital had explicitly told them that there's no point in coming here. The detective retired without ever finding the answer to the series of murders alleged to be the curse of Oyashiro-sama that afflicted Hinamizawa 10 years ago. And this Metropolitan Police investigator was involved in one of those incidents while visiting Hinamizawa 15 years ago. Sorry if you can hear the police outside. They've come to arrest me for video game crimes. Even after the statute of limitations of the case expired, the two of them couldn't stop visiting Mion. It happened 10 years ago in Hinamizawa village, near the end of June 1983. I'm going to put a save down just in case, because you never know. I have a distinct feeling this is going to be a surprisingly short stream because I'm terrible at calculating length. But on the other hand, if I'll work it out. I'll work it out in my own time. Near the end of June 1983. Volcanic gas emerged from Onagafuchi swamp and smothered Hinamizawa village. I have yet another comment to make. So, the volcanic gas emerging from a lake or swamp is called a limnic eruption, and it has only happened twice. The first time was not that deadly. The second time was very, very deadly. The response the second time was to start pumping I believe it's carbon monoxide or possibly dioxide, whatever it is, the gas out of the swamp in order to basically degas it so that if limnic eruptions happen, they're less likely to be dangerous. But it's impossible to do that for the first one, just because of the size of the lake. It's like completely unfeasible. And because the area around the lake is quite fertile because of the volcanic ash and everything, there's been lots of like populations that have sprung up around it. So if it had another eruption, it would be very dangerous. And the danger is that they are both next to or nearby, I believe, an active volcano. And so the assumption is that like when the volcano goes off, it triggers like movement in the earth, which later down the line triggers the limnic eruptions. I could be completely misremembering this. But anyway, look up limnic eruptions if you want to hear about my favourite personal favourite natural disaster. And it's my favourite because it's weird and rare and it's only happened twice. And because at the start of lockdown, I got really into reading about natural disasters because I was like heavily, I just went into like negative mode and was like, okay, I'm reading all about natural disasters all the time. And I read about limnic eruptions, and then I started playing this, and as soon as I saw the disaster, I was like, I know what that is. Volcanic gas emerged from Onagafuchi swamp and smothered Hinamizawa village. The catastrophe struck in the middle of the night and annihilated the entire village overnight. Panic about volcanic gas swept through the entire country as people overreacted to unsubstantiated reports, and the Hinamizawa region was completely quarantined immediately afterwards. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa, the Curse of Oyashiro-sama, ended with an unprecedented catastrophe. All entry into Hinamizawa was strictly forbidden after the disaster, and naturally that included Oishi and Akasaka. The curtain was forcibly closed on the case they were investigating. The catastrophe claimed the lives of over 1,200 people, and over 20 more are still missing. And there was a single survivor. That survivor was Mion Sonozaki, or possibly Shion. The disaster wiped out everyone other than Mion, so why did she alone survive? What happened to Mion Sonozaki between the day of Watanagashi and her disappearance? There were a lot of questions Oishi and Akasaka wanted to ask. I was thinking about this too, because there was the implication. So Shion talked to us on the day of Watanagashi and told us that like bad things were going on, and Mion like told her off and then was like, I'll tell you about it later. And then it seemed like Shion went, back off to Okonomiya at school, and we just didn't see her, and Mion was hanging around with us. But the thing that so when Oishi called Keiichi at his house, he said like the latest intel was that Shion was last seen with you, which I assumed meant that, like, that for whatever reason the way that it was worded made me think at the library. I suppose it could have been at the Watanagashi festival, but it made me think that perhaps Shion disappeared, Mion took her place, and other way around. It's confusing. These fucking twins make everything confusing. One of them is paranoid and insane. The other one is not paranoid and also not insane, to put a very broad way of referring to a relatively complex issue, especially with the twins, who have a whole lot of issues beyond like probably anyone else, in my opinion. So I have this like who knows which one of them is alive and which one's dead and which one's which at any given time. There were a lot of questions Oishi and Akasaka wanted to ask. It's been a long time, Mion. It's Oishi. Do you remember me? Look closely. I'm the detective from Okonomiya who always gave the Sonozaki family a hard time. Miss Sonozaki, I realise it must be painful, but you're the only person I can talk to. Miss Sonozaki, you're the only person left with any connection to Hinamizawa. Mion said nothing in response, but her body did move faintly when he said the word Hinamizawa. Then, she slowly turned her body away from the window and towards the room. Her movement was awkward, like an electric doll that was suddenly turned on. And then, her unfocused eyes pointed towards the two men. Her face was difficult to make out thanks to her long, flowing hair. But between the strands of her hair, it was possible to see the blank look on her face. Whenever we have a scene in a hospital, it always reminds me of the ending, specifically of Watanagashi, which, in my opinion, is probably... Watanagashi and its answering arc, probably the two strongest stories. Can you tell that I have a bias towards the Sonozaki sisters? I think they're absolutely fascinating as characters. The end of the Watanagashi arc, where Keiichi's in hospital and he hears Mion crawling out from underneath the hospital bed. Oh my god, it's so well done and it is so scary. And that is one of the things, so I've never watched the Higurashi anime. This is my first time playing through the VN series, but I read a solid chunk of the manga ages and ages ago, and that scene of Mion, or possibly Shion, emerging from underneath Keiichi's bed at the end of Watanagashi was one of the scenes that, like, most stuck with me throughout, from the manga. Between the strands of her hair, it was possible to see the blank look in her eyes. As everyone in the area impatiently waited for Mion to say something, she reached out and grabbed something by her bedside. A deck of playing cards. The nurse's shoulders immediately began to droop, as if she'd realised something. Unable to comprehend the situation, Oishi and Akasaka turned to face one another. Is everyone ready? Shall we start? Mion definitely said that, as she peered around with a vacant look in her eyes. Mion definitely said everyone. The only people here right now were Oishi, Akasaka, and the nurse. However, it was quite obvious that she wasn't referring to the people in the room when she said everyone. That everyone that Mion was speaking to were nowhere to be seen. Mion started skillfully shuffling the cards. Her hands looked completely relaxed as they moved. Swish, swish. She began dealing out the cards she had shuffled on the bed. Of course, nobody was there to receive these piles of cards. Mion began talking to the invisible everyone while continuing to play cards. Oishi was able to make out several familiar names. Oishi, what is this? Oishi closed his eyes and listened to Mion's voice. Seems that time has completely come to a halt for Mion Sonozaki since the incident. She's been like this since the incident? Then her memory is... Akasaka's shoulders drooped and he tightly clenched his fists. Mion simply continued playing cards. To anyone who saw her, she would appear to be only a high school student. Mion's internal clock had truly stopped. Damn it! Oishi suddenly approached Mion and shouted into her ear. Miss Sonozaki! Mion Sonozaki! Mion slowly turned towards Oishi. We've been searching all this time, trying to find the truth behind the incidents in Hinamizawa. Mion, we need to hear your testimony. Mion slowly brushed away the hair that was covering most of her face. Her entire face was white as porcelain, and it was the face of a girl from 10 years ago, who seemed to reject the past 10 years. Oishi suddenly caught his breath. Mion, I need your testimony. Please, for the sake of your friends, please wake up. Mion gazed forward intently, but her eyes still looked vacant. Oishi gazed deep into her eyes, looking for an answer. Then Mion, very slowly, began to open her mouth. What should this game's punishment be? Please tell me, okay, Keiichi? Ooh, that's what I have to say. Goodness me. Taraimawashi, alternate ending, read only after completing Tsukiyotoshi. Okay, well, we'll come back to the alternate ending. In fact, I'm going to make a note to myself to do that. Typing is me telling myself to tarot alternate ending after 2. Because Tsukiotoshi is the next one that we're going to be playing, and as I understand it, it's sort of a retelling. It's a retelling of Mayakashi, but is still considered a question arc in that it doesn't actually tell any answers. So, I guess it's probably a sort of Taraimawashi, Mayakashi combo trying to answer, right? The Great Disaster. Early morning, June 2nd, 1983, the day after my birthday. Word of the disaster in the Hinamizawa district of Shishibone City quickly spread. Volcanic gas, including hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide, was released from the Onagafuchi swamp, a major water source in the Hinamizawa Hiccup area, and gas covered the entire village. Sorry, I'm checking a thing. So June 21st is actually a Monday this year, so I won't be streaming, but I will be... still be in Seattle because that's when summer quarter starts. So I may do a special Higurashi birthday stream. I don't know. Just to, you know, celebrate, question mark, the date that the disaster most often happens on the 21st, which is a good day for a terrible disaster. The number of victims exceeds 1,200. Another 20 is still missing. Approximately 600,000 people were evacuated from the surrounding municipalities as a result of the disaster. Subsequent investigation revealed a magma reservoir and a hot spring just beneath the Onagafuchi swamp. Investigators concluded that gas erupting from that source was the cause of the disaster. The reason this is likely to happen in Japan is because Japan obviously has earthquakes and volcanoes, and it's like quite a geologically active zone. And as I understand that the reason for limnic eruptions, I believe, is that sort of geologic activity basically disrupts all of the gas that is sort of in those lakes, which then erupts. I could be completely misremembering, so please Google limnic eruptions and come back and tell me that I've completely forgotten how they work. I think they're terrifying also because they are so difficult to predict, and because they're so rare. Like, they're unlikely to happen where I am, because of the surrounding, like, geology, but still, gas erupting from that source was the cause of the disaster. Additionally, local tradition motivated people to declare the disaster in Hinamizawa the work of a curse, which caused a large uproar and resulted in confusion early in the investigation. Local customs in Hinamizawa predicted that the curse would release miasma that would annihilate the village. Did it? Scholars point out that a similar disaster may have occurred in the past and form the original basis for this custom, which I believe is covered in the game that isn't yet translated, which is the one that actually, like, is the origin story for the whole game, which I really want to play because it tells us more about Hanyu's past, which I'm very, like, I've read up on and I'm still confused by. A small number of radical magazines suggested that the disaster was an extension of the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa over the past several years, only adding fire to the curse of Oyashiro-sama theory. Additionally, relatives of Hinamizawa villagers and former residents who avoided the disaster were hospitalized, one after another, complaining of poor physical health. A portion of them dying of an unknown illness caused further panic. So there is debate. Essentially, I'm going to take all the magic out of this. The one of the researchers, the one whose name I cannot for the life of me remember, had a theory that if Rika, who is the inverted commas queen carrier, died, everyone else in the village would die, because if she died, they would basically go insane and there would be mass violence and pass out. And so she had, like, put in place this sort of reaction which, if that happened, the entire village would be gassed so that it couldn't cause any harm. But as we know, it has happened in the past that Rika has died and the villagers haven't gone insane, which sort of makes one think, well, so it doesn't necessarily even have to be if she physically dies, as if it's if they think that she's died. So in the past there's been times where she's faked her death, and everything continued as normal. There was like no question about it. It wasn't, I think that, you know, just, I can't remember exactly how they worked it out, but they basically faked her death. And it became, I think, widespread in the village, but it didn't cause panic. It certainly didn't cause the panic that had been predicted, implying that the theory of what happens when the Queen Carrier dies to people who have Hinamizawa syndrome is wrong. But in this case, it kind of implies that there's some degree of truth to it, because of the fact that, like, relatives and former residents likely had Hinamizawa syndrome at the base level, and the destruction of Hinamizawa could have caused that to, like, go up to 2 or 3. And so it's, on the one hand, it's like, I think it's implied that it can be triggered by stress. And so very often when the characters go into that level 3, level 4 super paranoid, it's the result of a stressful event that occurs to them, and that's where they go into their paranoia zone. And so it could just be the stress of the village, but one thinks if perhaps also it's not possibly the fact that, like, you know, a whole bunch of people died out, and so the parasite or whatever it is that causes Hinamizawa syndrome and the residents sort of instinctively freaked out in the same way that it's theorized that would happen if the Queen Carrier died. I don't think I'm making any sense. I'm just thinking thoughts out loud. As I mentioned earlier, my brain is fried. After stream, I'm going to go read another 30 pages of feminist theory, which is really interesting, but is also not the sort of thing that you necessarily want to read at 9 o'clock at night. But I have to get it done. Moreover, there were several reports of people who claimed to be possessed by the curse of Oyashiro-sama before committing suicide in bizarre manners. The shocking news spread across the entire country in a flash. Delusions and fear of poisonous gas that can silently kill people in the middle of the night ran through all of Japan, resulting in cases of insomnia, respiratory issues, headaches, vertigo, and more. I believe this is also the case with the idea of fan death in Korea, where it's a urban legend that causes people psychosomatic symptoms. There were also reports of people carrying out eccentric behaviour while alleging to be possessed. Most of these were thought to be a result of the extreme media coverage, but mental illness caused by the Great Hinamizawa disaster later came to be known as the Hinamizawa syndrome. The Hinamizawa district that all these rumours originated from is currently blockaded, and flying over the region is strictly prohibited. Although the blockade was lifted at one point due to reduced gas levels, another ejection of gas was detected later that year, and the surrounding area was blockaded once again. Looks around shiftily. They say within the grounds is a village left to decay, leaving all traces of life behind. The sole survivor is a female student who lived in Hinamizawa village, Mion Sanozaki. At the time of her rescue, she was in physical deterioration and a mental daze, symptoms of dehydration. Thanks to desperate paramedical activity, her life was spared. She is currently hospitalized in a general hospital within the prefecture. Daily periodicals have been pushing to interview her, but all requests have been denied. The incredible mental shock she suffered left her with no memory of the time before and after the incident, and she has a high risk of regressing even further. The current situation is so severe that she can't even respond to police interrogation. I really want to read the alternate ending, but I'm not going to because it tells me not to, and also because in the original console arc it was unlocked after you finished Tsukuyoshi, so it's sort of seen as like the real ending. I want to read you, but I won't. Go for the all-cast review session. I'm gonna drink a shit ton of water because boy howdy does my throat ever hurt. Okay, everyone who read Higurashi When They Cry, Taraimawashi, thank you for all your hard work. This is the very first arc that wasn't part of the original story. What did you think? I'd be very happy if you enjoyed this what-if scenario. What is there to enjoy? What was the deal with that abrupt ending that told us nothing about what happened? It's all gibberish. Yeah, really. Everyone died except me for some reason. But even though I was survived, I was so shaken I couldn't even talk properly. Even I have no clue what happened. That's right. This time in Taraimawashi, we got the worst possible ending because of your effort to avoid unravelling the mystery. So it's sort of a story full of unexplained events, and all you learn is the result of the tragedy. Meep, I think it's an awful story for everyone to suddenly be killed by a major disaster. First off, how can the curse of Oyashiro-sama even cause a natural disaster? It can't have any connection to the series of deaths in Hinamizawa. That's certainly true. Ending the story with a bunch of unanswered mysteries is rather unsatisfying. Well, this is a mystery story, so mysteries are okay, but there haven't been any hints so far. It's impossible to reason it out without clues. We were exploring the mystery behind serial murder cases, but now we switched to a story about exploring the truth behind a village catastrophe. People who reached this route probably started getting angry and shouting, "What is this?" So apparently in the original console arc, in the console release, this was designed to be if you were playing through Onikakushi, and I believe if you're playing through possibly if you're playing through any of the first 3 question arcs and you decided not to actively pursue an investigation of any sort, then it would develop into this. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but this was sort of an offshoot of one's active decision not to follow up in an investigation. Whereas in this case, it's a sort of what-if scenario that I guess almost like splits off from the festival on the night of probably Watanagashi, I'm guessing, given that Shion's there. Plus, earlier on when we were exploring the mystery, wasn't everyone acting strange? Mion seemed really upset that Shion and Keiichi were getting along well. There was something odd about Reina too. She gave off an eerie atmosphere, like she was keeping tabs on Keiichi. But Keiichi was probably the one acting most abnormal. Yeah, I felt the same way. Keiichi was acting like such a good-for-nothing, trying to cling to his peaceful everyday life. Honestly, it was pretty uncool. Yep. For example, Keiichi wouldn't normally refuse to go to the garbage dump with Reina. That's really where the world of Higurashi begins. That effectively bypasses the turning point of the mystery. Of course, this only happened because we were going down the most passive route possible. It wasn't like him either to just stand by and watch when he saw how depressed I looked. Keiichi is usually so much more involved and concerned about us, so he should have been okay with walking home together. So what you're saying is this is a result of making out-of-character choices? Taraimawashi is all about running from a problem instead of solving it. The name reflects this. It's like the sort of passing on blame, the idea of like shifting the blame to somebody else so that they deal with it and you don't have to deal with anything, which is kind of what this is. It's like, I ain't putting my hands up and saying I ain't dealing with that. Still, an important person necessary to unravel the mysteries of Higurashi made an appearance in Taraimawashi. The other detective, named Akasaka, who showed up at the end with Oishi. Do you remember? We didn't really feel like he fit in. Like, he was the polar opposite of Oishi. Though he seemed really well acquainted with Oishi. He only showed up briefly at the end, but I got the impression he was an elite urban police officer. But how does that play into all of this? Rika's actually met that detective before, haven't you, Rika? That's right, Nipa! Wow, Rika? What kind of situation would get you involved with a detective? A love story began in another metropolitan public safety case, Himatsubushi. Detective Akasaka is actually the main character of that story. By the way, what is this Himatsubushi story about? I've already played it, so... It was during the very beginning of the series of deaths in Hinamizawa that became to be known as Oyashiro-sama's curse. It's a story set 5 years ago, during the Hinamizawa Dam resistance movement. I met my soulmate during an incident that happens at that time. Soulmate? Rika? What is that supposed to mean? You'll just have to play to find out. Nipa! Huh? It's big info to suddenly drop on us. Out with it. Can't you tell us more? It's no fun if I just reveal it. You're a bit involved in this one too, Mion, so look forward to it. Huh? Mion is in this one too? Then what about Reina? And what about me? Both of you are sitting out this time. Nipa! F. Huh. Then, is it because Keiichi isn't the main character this time? Hoo-hoo. In other words, it's time to begin Kurado Oishi's refined theatre. What? You're here? Ooh. Don't act so surprised. You're looking at me like you've seen a ghost. In any case, Himatsubushi is sort of chapter 0, and it's finally time for the adults to shine. Marks the beginning of a moody, adult Higurashi story, too mature for you little kids to join in, haha. Kind of really does, although I would argue from the very start it's kind of broody and mature. Hearing it straight from Oishi's mouth, I can't help but think of something obscene. Why is that? Why is that? I'm worried about this. We'll have to raise the age rating on this game after just a day or two. Wonder what kind of story we'll explore. Ah, Oishi. We're still civil servants, so please try to act respectable around all these tax-paying citizens. Ah, it's that detective. May I call you Akasaka? Ah, whatever you'd like. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you, too. Huh? Come to think of it, where's Keiichi? My is already getting a head start on reading the next script. He'll be sitting out for Himatsubushi, so he said he wanted to get a head start. I understand how he must feel. I caught a glimpse of Keiichi's script once before. The first half alone was larger than 5 phone books. I think this is meant to be a joke to the fact that the consoles are voice acted, but I turned the voice acting off because it's in Japanese, which means I would still have to be reading the subtitles over it, which is not ideal. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, it's an early mid-season gift, and was delighted. But when I opened it, I just found a huge bundle of tightly packed pages. Sounds crazy. So thick you could block a magnum bullet with that. No, you're exaggerating. Or maybe not. I bet the stapler broke while trying to bind the pages together. You're still good, Rika. You've got a relatively decent number of lines. Mion and Shion have more than Reina too. How... Speaking of Shion, where is she? Ah, that girl is working overtime too. She didn't expect a major role to come so soon, so she wasn't prepared for it at all. Well, more than anything, it's really her own fault. Actually, I have a lot of dialogue in Himatsubushi as well. I'm planning to head back to the studio right after this. Ooh. Unfortunately, the same is true to me. So would you mind getting this started soon? I don't have a lot of time to spare. Yes, that's right. Keiichi will just have to come to one of the parties another day. Mion, would you pass out drinks for everyone? Sure thing. Here's a beer for Oishi and Akasaka, and some juice for Rika and Satoko. Oh well, this is a proper commercial game, so underage drinking isn't allowed, huh? That's why I'm drinking grape juice instead of wine. Meep. Rika, no way. Have you ever had wine? I've got some wine waiting for me in the fridge for tomorrow, and every time I open the fridge to get anything else, I stare at it and I think, no, I'm saving this for Friday night. Meep, I'm just joking around. I promise I won't drink alcohol until I'm 20 years old. Does everyone have a glass? Then Reina will take the lead. Alright, Taraimawashi is officially over. Good job, everyone. Anyway, it seems like Oishi and Akasaka are in a bit of a hurry, so let's take a quick look back on this scenario. First up, Satoko, did you have anything to say? There's not a lot for me to look back on, considering I barely appeared this time around. I feel the same way, meep. As for Reina, I should have been teasing Keiichi at first, like when he left the library. Yet, I was really intimidating when I ambushed Keiichi right after Oishi's interrogation. It felt really strange. I wonder if Reina was trying to keep Keiichi quiet. What did Reina have to gain from trying to obscure Keiichi's movements? And what did Reina know and hide about the murders? I don't have a clue, so all I can do is make baseless conjecture. This is a very unaccommodating scenario. Meep. Oh, actually, there was one specific point that stuck with me. When Satoko Hojo's aunt was murdered 1 year ago, Mion Sonozaki and Shion both disappeared one after another. What's the meaning behind that? I was also wondering about this, because it was the first I'd ever heard of that. Taking those facts at face value, it suggests that the two of them might be involved in the aunt's murder or something along those lines. But with no evidence to back it up, that's nothing more than pure speculation. I believe it's the Sonozaki family was involved in the sense that they procured someone to, like, be the prime suspect, so that the blame didn't fall on Satoshi, even though it was very clearly Satoshi. Was there anyone in the village who might have seen something? Hinamizawa and Okonomiya aren't particularly large, so wouldn't it be difficult for something like that to go unnoticed? Well, the Sonozaki family and the rest of the 3 families are so sacred that they're practically invincible within Hinamizawa. If all the villagers wanted to keep something hidden, it would definitely stay in the dark. Hoo-hoo. And then there's that ending, where a catastrophe annihilates the entire village. If you ascribe to the curse theory, it can be cleared up with a single word, but I can't think of a proper reason why events would transpire like this. First off, we need to determine if this incident was caused by human hands or some paranormal phenomenon. The thing is, because of this, I'm kind of wondering if maybe I should have done these when I was doing the question arcs. Just because, like, God, I've lost track of all of my words. There's like loads of questions that are being asked, which technically I know the answer to, and people who've like played further ahead will know the answer to. Like, what caused the natural disaster? So we know what that is because of the last two, Higurashi and Taraimawashi, but these guys don't know. We have to start our reasoning from that point. And if it was indeed done by human hands, then there must be someone who benefits from these events. Someone who benefits? Right. Every crime is someone who benefits from it. If we can elucidate the intentions of the parties involved, we can develop a clear picture of who they are. We can also, if you feel like, develop a queer picture of who they are. Well then, when we consider the series of mysterious deaths and now the disaster that wiped out the entire village, you're saying there's someone who might benefit from all this? My god, my throat hurts. To be honest, there are too many unknown details behind these incidents, and we lack the evidence necessary to make a decision. To that end, it's necessary to examine how all these incidents began 5 years ago. The damn resistance movement. Perhaps if we start our reasoning there, we won't miss anything. That's right. At this point, there's no arguing otherwise. I think we need to gather more information about these various incidents. There could be other important hints hidden in the other scenarios. That's true. Then, let's leave Oishi and Akasaka to handle Himatsubushi, and carefully think things over as we read along. Alright then, please enjoy yourself as you continue reading Higurashi When They Cry. Okay, folks, and with that, even though it is super duper early, I am going to end stream here, even though it is early, because I've got shit to do, and also I don't want to jump into the next game just yet. So thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for all the followers, and thank you, oh my god, hiccups, thank you very much for the raid, Fiona, it is very much appreciated. I will be streaming Heaven Will Be Mine this Saturday. We are going to be running through the Pluto route and getting the CG ending, which is the one that I haven't got yet. And I am very excited to do that. Then on Sunday, it'll be Destiny 2, where we are probably going to be continuing to work away at the challenges that I haven't had a chance to get anything done for yet. Then on Tuesday, it'll be Final Fantasy XIV. 5.5 is coming out next Tuesday. It's finally here. So next Tuesday is going to be an extra long 5.5 MSQ stream, and then Wednesday evening is going to be a extra long everything but the MSQ stream. And then next Thursday will be more Higurashi When They Cry, when we will be moving on to the next game in the bonus series, which is Tsukiyo Toshi. So take care everybody, thank you very much for watching. I very much appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening, do be excellent, and do be excellent to each other. I've forgotten what I say at the end of streams, and I shall see you guys on Saturday.